Welcome to Interactive Teaching and Learning with Seesaw Training. I'm Rashmi Prakar. I'm the District Pre-K 12 Ed Tech Coordinator for Watertown Public Schools. I also direct a small nonprofit called C-STEAM Futures, and I also work as Program Director for CS in STEAM for Lesley University. So the essential question for our training today is how can educational technology support great teaching and learning? And the learning objective for our training today is how educators use essential Seesaw tools to create engaging learning experiences that make student thinking and learning visible. Keeping that in mind, the agenda for today is a more holistic discussion of how an edtech platform such as Seesaw can really support our teaching and learning efforts and into making student learning visible in our classroom. And to that end, we have very specific competencies that we will be addressing during the training, such as making sure you are able to activate your account, that you are able to view student posts in 3 different ways and create your own posts. We will be working with the activity library and how you can borrow activities from the library, which are standards based, modify them, edit them as you need, augment them, and then reassign them, post them back into your Seesaw. So that journey, we will take a look at it. We will also look at many resources for students so that they can get used to environment of Seesaw, how they can engage within the environment of Seesaw. So we have many resources for that. We are also sharing a lot of resources for families, especially in bilingual, so Spanish language. So we have some resources embedded in the implementation guide uh, with Spanish families in mind. We also have resources that allow families to shows families how to interact with Seesaw, what is Seesaw, or how they can help their children um, interact in Seesaw. And finally, we will have additional links. And I really urge you to hold off your questions till the end. And please post them in the chat so that I can answer those at the end. Um, just so that we can go through the flow of the training, and many a times a question that you might have at the beginning could very well be answered during the flow of the training, hence the request. Um, I also wanted to mention that our wonderful coaches, the English language ELA coaches, Joya and Chris, math coaches, Emily and Forrest, and our library media specialists, Lydia, Kelly, and Roger, are willing to help you, have volunteered to help you with your Seesaw journey. So please, after the training, do take some time to go over the materials, go over the training one more time along with your account, and then please reach out to any one of us, including me, if you have any questions about implementing Seesaw. And the other question that I was asked right at the beginning was, where would all these resources be posted? So I wanted to share with you this implementation guide. You will get a link to this, and this guide has many different resources, including the video that we are currently recording, which is of the Seesaw training. It also has a quick preview of the student and the teacher views, an educator checklist so that you can sort of go through step-by-step process, and we'll go over this in more detail during the training, in the middle of the training, where we are actually going through the implementation guide. There are some basic tutorials in here, which are very quick tutorials that you can click on and access the information about very specific questions. And here are some activities that are very basic activities that can help your students get used to Seesaw. So for example, there are pre-kindergarten activities, kindergarten activities, grade 1 and grade 2 activities linked here, which you can access and use in your classroom to get your students used to the interface of Seesaw. So for example, there would be a capture a classroom moment, or signing in and out, the green button activity, or taking a photo activity, which sort of looks like this. So if it's capturing a classroom moment, they will be able to open the Seesaw, tap on the add button, take a photo or a video, and add it to their journal. So they sort of get used to using some of these tools. Um, Tell a story is my personally favorite activity, which sort of gives you again, how to take a photo, tap the mic icon, and share your story, so they are able to share their story. The math work activities sort of gives them a preview of how they can tap the plus icon and take a photo, and add it to their journal. So these are just fun little ways of engaging your students in interactively with Seesaw. Um, Here is another resource that's embedded in the implementation guide, which has very specific lesson plans about what is Seesaw, how to sign in into Seesaw, how to create a post, or how to respond an activity. So here are some links. Again, you are not asked to use all of these. You can use some of these, or these are just ideas that you can use and augment as you so need. But there are some resources embedded in that you can use as well. So you have like create your first post student directions, or you can use this particular post. Either way, the students are engaging within Seesaw, so it's completely up to you which activity you would like to use. Now, again, as I said, all of these activities are posted in here. So as you can see in grade 2, there is an activity about writer's workshop. So it is very similar to that of the math activity where they're taking a photo or they're tapping onto the mic and reading, but it's a little bit more elaborate. Or the math work activity in here is also a little bit elaborate, and have a very specific goal in mind. So you can absolutely use these activities. Um, this particular guide, as I said, is posted, will be sent to you. I'll send it to you by email, but at the same time, it's also posted on our EdTech for All website, the WPS EdTech for All website. And it's in this tab, EdTech Tutorials. That's where this guide will be posted. And I will make sure that it is linked right here into the faculty resources guide. And this yellow bar here will have the Seesaw guide, because we have included all of these PD sessions into our resource database right here. So please make sure you have access to this and you go over all the resources that are being mentioned, and then we will and if you have any questions, you can reach out to all of us at any point of time. So as we begin, we're going to take a look at few learning experiences. So let's look at learning experience A, which is a very traditional learning experience where you have a worksheet. You're doing single digit multiplication, and the kids are interacting with it in a very linear way. While as in experience B, I'm going to share a short video of Mrs. Tooney. She's a friend of mine who's been using Seesaw for quite some time now. And you can see how this experience is tad bit different from the previous learning experience A. And once you see the small snippet, then we will talk about the contrast, compare and contrast experiences A with experiences B, and sort of go on from there for our Seesaw project. Give me a quick second.
All right, playing with language and storytelling. Oh, I could go on about this one, because before we even put a pencil in their hands, we need to let children play with language. They need to retell, and they need to extend story experiences. And we can do this right within Seesaw, and we can do it with all of those amazing hands-on things that we are doing already in the classroom. So I have a few examples to share up here. When we were doing our Mo Willems author study, I had sentence strips with positional words on them, and they had to hide Pigeon around the room and then read the words and show us where Pigeon was hiding. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. Again, that happened. I'm going to try one more time. Here we go.
Pigeon is behind the book.
And again, Seesaw is awesome for app smashing. If you use Chatterpix, it's a great way to capture kids thinking in sort of a fun, playful way.
My favorite book is The Caterpillar and the Pollywog, because it has lots of silly characters in it.
And the idea of using Seesaw and movement. Here we did a story walk, and the children were working on beginning, middle, end, or first, next, last. So the little girl here was able to capture her storytelling in Seesaw.
Here is the rubber duck story. First, the people made all the rubber ducks blue eyes, red bills, and they packed them in boxes. Next, all the rubber ducks were on the boat. One fell off the boat.
I'm going to pause it right there. She has a super cute end when she thanks us for listening to her story. So if you have a chance to go back and watch those slides, I recommend that one because it's just so super adorable to listen to. But even just the idea of being able to capture children's language, and not just for us, but for them as well, because I'll have kids that will go back and they'll spend time looking at their portfolios and reliving experiences. And we can never underestimate the importance of that reliving for children. I had a little girl once who could not differentiate between two sounds. And it's not until we captured it on video and she watched herself making each different sound that she was really able to connect with it.
So, as you saw with Learning Experience A, you can see that the students are working on skills, but they are a narrower set of skills. However, with Experience B, you can see that the students are engaging in building, practicing, and applying their skills in a more interactive way. Most of this experience lives in Seesaw, so the children, the families, and the educator can revisit this learning experience and sort of reflect upon it. It also becomes a part of their digital learning portfolio, which is always a great way of assessing your learning over a period of time. And lastly, it also gives students a more fun, engaging way to interact with their surrounding and sort of learn anywhere. This is one of the strongest reasons why we are trying to bring in Seesaw platform into our pre-K up to second grade environment. Here are a few more student examples, and I will be revisiting student examples throughout our presentation today, just to sort of re-emphasize and bring back why we are engaging with Seesaw. So here is one which is about explaining a math concept. So I'm going there. Give me a quick second, and it's going to...
This is a group of 16, and I figured out 16 is an even number because there is 8 groups of 2, and none left over. I can also do an addition sentence. 8 plus 8 equals 16.
So you can see that the student is using the appropriate academic language and using the tools within Seesaw to sort of express their number sentence and also their understanding of the concept. Here is an example of a writer's workshop.
I am great at art.
So you can see the language development with the student and sort of meet them where they are. Here is a quick reflection about a project-based learning makerspace experience. So
This is the circuit I made, and it didn't work at first because we had to switch around this piece right here for the positive and negative energy, and now you can see it works fine. Watch this, I'll switch it on. Just wait for it, and it will take off right now.
So there are various student exemplars that I have embedded within this presentation and within this guide, which you will be receiving. This is the WPS Interactive Teaching and Learning with Seesaw Implementation Guide. There are many, many topics that are included in this guide. Add some of these and the other resources that are embedded in here for easy access. So, having said that, there are a few more exemplars that we'll be visiting soon, right after our basic sort of introduction to Seesaw and usage of Seesaw. But just recognizing that these exemplars show that students really thrive when they are actively exploring new ideas and are able to make their thinking and learning visible. So here is one that I really, really love, which is the ELA synonyms one. And I have linked over 30 or so exemplars in this presentation, which are very tangible examples of holistic learning from students.
Hi, I'm Material, and I'm very slow. I'm also very inactive, which means slow. My friends say that I'm very lackadaisical, and that means slow too. I always lose in a race, and it doesn't make me very happy. My friends always beat me because they're faster than me, and the slowest animal ever. Hope you enjoyed learning about the words slow, inactive, and lackadaisical, and they all mean slow.
Just a really wonderful way of emphasizing the word and sort of going through the synonyms exercise. This journal writing one is also really great, so we'll take a look at few other exemplars very soon. So without further ado, we are going to quickly go through the part of activating your Seesaw account. Um, when After this training, I really hope you will have some time to sort of digest all the information that's being thrown at you right now. And then you would go into your email and you would look for an email that looks kind of like this. You will follow the link and you will create a password. WPS has created classes, has added students, and we have a chosen mode, a sign in mode for students because it's a school's account. So you will not be adding students, but the rostered students are already added in. Now, if you cannot find the email, I urge you to please check your spam folder. And if you haven't yet received the email, please contact me or George, and we'll try to resend you the email. An important detail, and we've been talking about this quite a bit over the last week, is that if you already have a Seesaw account, a free one, make sure that your current account is linked to your school email address, which is your Watertown Public Schools email address. This really is very important because it helps us merge your account. And so if you have any questions about that, please email me and then we can take a look at your account. Okay. Um, After you've had a chance to get into your account, we are going to sort of do this activity. So I'm going to go through this, but you won't be able to do it right now with me, but you'll be able to take a look at how you can view and create posts. We'll also look at the activity library, as I mentioned before, and then we will look at how to create an activity of your own so that you sort of have an idea as you're exiting this training, and then when you have some time, you're going to practice some of this. So the way you view posts, all the student posts, you can view it through the journal view, which is right here. So when you click on that, there is a journal view and then there is a calendar view. So all your student work is visible in the journal view. If you click on the calendar option, then you will be able to view the student work by date. So you can actually click on the date and you will be able to view the student work by date. You can also click on the student name to view work by that specific student. So if I click on Mia, I will be able to look at Mia's work throughout into this item, and I will be able to look at Melissa's work if I click on Melissa's. Students are always able to post their entries by clicking on this green button, which is the plus sign, and we'll take a look at what it looks like at the a student view, because I have taken some screenshots of that, and they are always able to post using this plus sign. The students have variety of options, so do you. There is a photo option, there is a drawing option, video, upload, note, or link option. So you can use any of these options, and students can use any of these options to post their work or your work, which makes it a very multimodal presentation that you can attach. Now, you can always comment or like your student post by going right here. So the heart sign will be, if you press that, you will be able to see that it's liking the student post, or you can comment on it. You can post the student work to the class journal by clicking add, and then you can post student work. Now remember, when you do that, um, by default, all students can see all posts to the class journal. So I want to repeat this again, because by default, all student work can be seen by all students. And most of you have indicated that you don't want this option. So here is a video that I have linked, which is about managing your class settings. But I want to play a little bit about that because I don't have a class where I have multiple students in there. So I wanted to show you what it would look like. So here we are. Give me a quick second.
To manage your class settings, tap on the wrench icon in the top right corner. In this class settings menu, you can adjust your class settings, add folders, add students, and approve families once you've invited them. We have lots of useful options in this menu, so check here if you're looking for ways to customize your Seesaw class. Within the class settings menu, there are a few good things to decide before you start using Seesaw with your students. The student sign-in mode is the first thing we'll look at today. This is where you decide how your students will sign into Seesaw. Seesaw defaults to shared device sign-in mode. This mode is great for shared devices. Students sign in by scanning your special class QR code or typing in a text code. Then they choose their name from the class list every time they add a new post. No need to sign in and out as devices are passed around. If you have one-to-one devices, you can switch to individual sign-in mode. With individual student sign-in mode, students sign in using a QR code or text code and select their name once from the class list. They stay signed in as this student for up to a year and can only add items to their specific journal. If you want students to use their email and password or Google account to sign into Seesaw, you can choose the Email Google option. You can switch how students sign in if needed. Another setting to check out is students can see each other's work. If you want students to be able to see other students' journals in your class in addition to their own journal and work that you as the teacher post to the class, keep this setting on. If you don't want students to be able to see other students' journals, turn this off.
So again, there are a few other settings that that video talks about, but primarily we will be using the login using your Gmail, which is the Watertown email and password option, and not the QR code option. And also, as you saw in the class setting, you are going to check off that students are only able to see their own work rather than seeing everybody else's posted on the. So that option, after it's checked off, students will only be able to see their own work. Now, there is an option of where I have posted this kind of a pause sign in this training, just because when you actually go through this training again or go through this video, this is where I would like you to pause and sort of just review what we've looked at. So for this particular purpose, I would say take 10 minutes to review the calendar and the journal views, maybe use the photo tool to take a quick selfie, and use the tool on the canvas to create like a welcome post. You can also use the green check and select all students, but I would keep it in a draft mode before posting it. And also, it's always a great idea to view your post in the journal tab, the calendar view, and the student view. So this is sort of a 10-minute activity that I would want you to engage in once you sort of log in into your account and are able to see all your students. One more thing to think about or keep in mind is if you have any questions about your student roster, once you log in into your account, you would want to please contact me and George and email us so that we can fix any roster errors that you might be viewing at your end. So, how does Seesaw as a learning tool makes learning visible? So there are some ways it's very helpful in making student learning visible. It is using sharing anything with photo and video tools, so that allows for students to articulate their learning and also make it visible. They can take pictures. On the canvas, the microphone allows you to record your voice over your work, so that's a great way of again articulating one's understanding. And the pen and the labels allow you to annotate and add explanation, as we saw in one of the previous examples, where in the math, explaining the math understanding, the student was able to articulate the number sentence. And we will be looking at a few more examples such as those, just so that you can see some of this in action. When to use the green button, we quickly reviewed this. Students use it to post their posts, but teachers usually use the green button for posting some resources for students to view, discussion questions, or just reposting some great student work, depending on if the students has given permission to allow for that reposting to happen to the whole class. To the whole class. Now we are also going to look at the activity library before we go into creating our own activity. So here is a quick, pardon me, here is a quick um, activity library. So there is a link to activity library, and when you go to the activity library, this is what it looks like. There are you can sort it by grades. You can also sort it by subject, or you can put in some keywords and you can search activities like that. There are some trending searches within the activity library that are really helpful, and you can see that they are organized. You can see how old they are or what the topic is, and there have been many activities which are very well aligned to the to say the science standards and the learning standards. There are some featured authors, and you can look through that. That's a really great way of engaging with the activity library. So going back to our activity library, we are going to, you can assign an activity using an activity library. So find the activity library by clicking on the assign the activity, which takes you to the activity library. You will see a tab like this, which is the community, school or district, and my library. The school and district tab is available to you because we have a school's license. However, if you have a free Seesaw account, then you don't see the schools tab. This school district tab allows you to add certain activities to this particular tab. And so your coaches would be able to add activities to the school district tab, and then you'll be able to pull those activities right from here and add it to your Seesaw, which is a great way of sort of collaborating on different activities and providing sort of common activities for all of you. So you click on the My Library, the three tabs in the activity library as we looked at, and you will be able to, once you look at an activity that you like. So for example, I like a particular activity, I can click on that activity, and then it will show up in my activity library like this. So I press on the heart, and once I press it on the heart, it's going to show up into my activity library like that. And I can assign that activity by clicking on the assign button, and that's when the activity will show up in my library like this. I can go down here and I can click on the copy and the edit activity, and I can edit this activity as I like, or if I want to add additional notes, I can do that. And once I have edited this activity to my satisfaction, I can share this activity and then it would show up in my activities tab for my kids. My students will be able to see this activity, and then they can add their responses by clicking on the add response button. And then once they start clicking on the add response button, all of the responses will show up into this gray bar, and I can click on this and I will be able to see all the students activities right in here. I can click on those and I can see their activities, or I can approve those activities by clicking on the review button. So all the activities that are posted here go through this approval cycle before, or the review cycle, before I approve it. So that's how I will be adding comments, or I can basically approve the post, send it back, or delete the post depending on what the what the student response is. I can also add my comment on the post, or I can ask students to modify that particular activity based on my feedback, and that the student will be able to repost that activity as well. So that was a quick preview of the activity library. I would ask you to pause the video right here and then go into the activity library and just explore the activity library for some of the wonderful activities that are already posted here, and maybe click on a few, assign them into your Seesaw, into your library, bring them in, and try to assign them into your classroom in a draft mode, of course. But sort of going through that process will allow you to feel comfortable about taking an activity from the activity library, modifying it, augmenting it, and then going through the process of assigning it. Your kids will not be posting their responses as yet, so I would wait on that and just sort of get comfortable with the activity library in general. Now this is just creating an activity from scratch if you want, and that you can do by creating on the create new activity tab. Your coaches might want to go through this process as well, because they can then post that activity into the school tab, which will be available to all of you to access at a later time. So you click on that plus sign where you create a new activity. You can name the activity, enter a description, title, and some step-by-step instructions. You can also add voice instructions in here, or you can add some multimedia instructions or exemplars. That, let's say, for example, we are creating, let's add a welcome note. So I can create like I can click on the note. I can, on the item creation screen, teachers and students, both of you have access to these tools, can pick from a range of tools to document their learning, and teachers and students can use a range of annotation tools to further explain their learning. So basically, this is a nice little welcome note activity that you might want to engage in right at the beginning. You will write a particular welcome note, you will post it to your class, it goes into your class feed, so everyone will be able to see it. And then you can basically you'll select everyone to upload your welcome note, and then it will be visible in the class feed. Teacher added items are automatically uploaded. However, the student added items, as we saw before, require teacher approval before they are being added to the class. And based on our class setting, the student items will either be visible to the whole class or will only be visible to the student. There are also Seesaw icon shortcuts that you can add to your activities, and they are available to you within the library. Or we'll also have this handout available to you in the implementation guide. So you can attach multimedia examples for students to view. So those examples could be, supplemental video or an article depending on the age of the child. It could be a demo video that you recorded for an activity that you're explaining them, or a building activity or a project-based learning activity that you want them to construct. Or you can also attach other materials that support students completing their activity. Now, this is the section where you would be adding templates for students to respond directly on top of. So, for example, you could add a graphic organizer template from Google Drawing, and some of the templates that we've already posted through one of the Google Drawing trainings. Or you can add a photo and the students could annotate that, or you can create a note to share guiding questions. So there are many ways in which you can provide students with a template within this, and then students respond using that template. So here is a quick example of an activity where, storytelling with drawings. This is actually borrowed from the library, and then we modified it a tad bit. And you can see that there are some teacher notes which are not visible to the student, but it sort of addresses the standards that we are looking at. It suggested scaffolds for English language learners, which are particularly loved, and then there are some notes that are included. But for students, it's very straightforward. They would be tapping onto the add button, taking a photo of their design, and then tapping on the mic to record their story. And then tap the check to add to their journal. And you can also play the instructions as have been recorded, or the teacher can augment those instructions and record them separately. You can assign the activity, and then the students will be able to respond using the add response button. So we are going to switch gears a little bit, and we are going to look at how signing in as a student looks like. I don't have a student account right now. So what I've done is I've queued in a video. I've also linked that in here where students will be able to sign in using an email. So give me a quick second.
For students using their email to log into Seesaw, first have them open the Seesaw app on their device or go to app.seesaw.me on a Chromebook or computer. Then tap the I'm a Student button. Students that need to connect to a class for the first time or create their account will enter the class join code provided by their teacher here and select Go. Students will select either Continue with Google or enter their name, email, and desired password to create their account. Now, I will show you how students with existing Seesaw accounts can join your class. First, have them open the Seesaw app on their device or go to app.seesaw.me. Then tap the I'm a Student button. Students who already have a Seesaw account can type in their email and password or select Sign in with Google. Once the student is logged in, they will tap their profile icon located in the top left corner. Then tap Join Class. They will then enter the class join code provided by their teacher. Then tap Join Class.
So this is a very quick way of adding students. So students will be already added into your class rosters. So they won't be joining your class, but they will be logging in using their username and passwords. So again, iPads, Androids, Kindle, Chromebook, all of them uses Seesaw. There are tiny bit of glitches with the Kindles, but it has proved to be quite a seamless process as you sort of sign in into this into Seesaw. And app.seesaw.me is the link where the students will go to sign in into Seesaw. Again, this is the sign in student view, and the plus icon is where they click to add an item as a student. To add an item, they click on the picture, they select their name, and then their item is added to the class after the teacher approves it, or a teacher can post a comment on the post, and then the student can rework the post. So it's an iterative process where the feedback can be provided. Again, you can invite families by clicking. You will have to sign back into your teacher account. You will tap this invite families button at the bottom, and you can also print out your family letters customized for each student. What we have included, there are a few observations with Seesaw. It is obviously, as you can see, it's a multimodal directions, and the resources make learning accessible and engaging for students. Students do have access to all the Seesaw learning tools, so it's important that you take some time to go over some of the tools with them in so that they feel more comfortable with it, and then they can feel more supported in creating, exploring, and sharing their ideas. Students do have an authentic audience for their work because it's added to the journal and it's visible to the families in the bigger class, depending on how the student work is shared. So again, you want to make them feel comfortable about the interface so that they are that much more empowered in articulating their learning. And to that end, before we sort of move on to the resources, I wanted to congratulate you because right now we just sort of went through a very, very quick preview of 3 ways of viewing student work, of approving student posts, how to post to the class journal, finding, saving, and assigning activities, looking at the activity library, and a few more sort of nuances of student login. Again, once you log in into your account, you'll be able to sort of go through this video or some of the resources provided and actually do this in real time. And I also wanted to tell you that the coaches, both English language arts and the mathematics coaches, along with the library media specialists at the pre-K 5 level, are very much looking forward to helping you with this journey. And of course, I will always be there to answer any questions that you might have. A few important resources that I wanted to point out, which are critical for the first week of Seesaw learning for your students. So here is the link to the WPS Seesaw PD Get Students Started lesson plans, where there is this is just an ideation. Again, you can modify this. I would make a copy of this and then modify it as you need. But basically, there are 4 lessons where we are talking about what is Seesaw, signing in, creating a post, responding to an activity. So students feel a little bit more empowered in sort of navigating this, you know, navigating Seesaw in general. So here is just an essential setup, making sure everything's working. Then you have the lesson 1, which is this is again a suggestion, and you might want to edit and modify it as you would like. And then you go on to the second and the third lesson, and the fourth, where they are responding to an activity, which it says 25 minutes, but again, you can assign some of this activity as they are sort of interacting with you. You can show and tell, and then they would be looking at the activity and responding to that activity. So this lesson plan is already linked in the implementation guide, and I'm going to quickly go over to the implementation guide to show you some of these resources. But here is a remote learning message for Seesaw for families, and you can of course edit this document as you would like, make a copy of it and edit it, and this would basically, there is a video that would help them log in, so you can copy this, modify it, and send it in an email to your family so that they are more prepared to log in into Seesaw. Now here are some sign-in directions for students that I've included in, and they look like this. It's going to take a bit of time for it to open up because it's a PDF, but please feel free to again modify this resource as you see fit. It is taking a little bit of time, but it's like step one, clicking I'm a student and then entering your text code or logging in, and it's also in Spanish. So you can use this resource, modify it as you see fit, and then provide those directions for your students. Lastly, there is a tour of the class app, which is a video that would be super helpful for your students. So I highly recommend sending this document, and then there is also a video that I've embedded into the implementation guide, which sort of gives them a quick tour of the class app, and it will load up because it's again a PDF document. It's going to take some time, but you can see that this is your journal. You can create a post by clicking on the add button. You can complete activities by clicking on the add response, and you can always view notifications, messages, and announcements in the inbox. So this is a quick document that sort of allows them to see what are the different ways in which they are going to be interacting with that portal. So that's first set of resources. The second is how to connect with the families here, how to get families started. But more important, there is an introduction video that I've included for families and an introduction video for students. So this is super, super helpful because it's a quick guide, and I highly recommend you playing this in your classes during the first week so that the students are more aware of the Seesaw app setup. And it's a nice little video which takes a little bit of time.
Hi, have you met Rainbow Bear? Rainbow Bear just started using Seesaw.
So it's a nice little fun little introduction to Seesaw, and you can view it by clicking on this link, and I'll show you where these links reside in the Seesaw implementation guide. You will have access to the Seesaw implementation guide right after this training. It will be a link sent to you. And within this guide, you will see that there are multiple sections. First is what is Seesaw, which is essentially the introduction and the training, how it works, the educator setup checklist, which we will look at in a minute. But let me go here. I'm going to show you a presenter view so that you can see it in a more okay. So you will be seeing some Seesaw student challenges which are embedded within here, and ideas for your classroom, and lastly the resources and next steps. So here is the training video that we've just we are looking at. So that's embedded in here, and you'll be able to view it at different stages. This is a quick student and teacher view of Seesaw and with some guidelines, so you can borrow it, or you can use a screenshot of it while you're explaining it to the students. Here is an educator checklist. Again, please feel free to edit it as you need, but these were just some of the steps that you might need to go through in order to make sure your Seesaw is all set up. So the first is to make sure to explore all the resources that are being provided to you, go through the training video and sort of complete the exercises, the creation exercises that we have embedded within the video. And then I would also look at some of the resources that we are going to look at in the implementation guide. Then make sure your login is working, that you have your WPS Seesaw account. Check your student roster for accuracy. If you have any discrepancies, please email me or George, and we will definitely help you with your account. But you can always email your library media specialist, your ELA, and the math coaches, who are also very well versed with the Seesaw and can help you. I highly recommend creating a post by clicking on the plus green button. Making sure your devices, student devices, have Seesaw. We have installed it, but just making sure that every student have access to the Seesaw app. As per your plans, feel free to use the WPS Seesaw lesson plan template that I just showed you. Modify it, change it, but I highly recommend using at least a couple of those lessons so that students get used to the Seesaw interface. Please feel free to modify the family Seesaw letter template, but do send a message to the families regarding how to access Seesaw. You might need to help students log in into Seesaw classes using their username and passwords. And if you don't remember their username and passwords, you can always ask your library media specialist or your front office secretary, as well as the leadership team has access to the username and passwords. So that's where you'll be able to help your students log in. My highest recommendation is to always explore the activity library and see how you can pull an activity, add it to your own library, modify it, and then assign it. That's a really great exercise to go through because it allows you to sort of get more familiar with the activity library in general and then editing and assigning it. We are planning for an advanced training sometime in November with Seesaw, but so that you've had some time to play with it, and then we will try to augment it with some differentiation strategies, integration strategies, and very tangible student exemplars that um, demonstrate implementation of effective differentiation and equity in the classroom. So do look forward to that in November. And again, if you have any questions, your library media specialists, your ELA math coaches, Joya, Chris, Foster, and Emily are really great at Seesaw and they can help you with the questions. You always have me, so you can contact me, but I highly recommend sort of collaborating with each other as well and going through the resources first so that you have a little bit more um, sort of ownership of Seesaw in general and the resources that are presented to you. Here are just some basic tutorials about how to set up your class, how to add students, what do families see, what do students see, how do students add posts to Seesaw. So all of these are active links and you can always go to these. These are very small mini tutorials. So it really helps you. There are a little bit advanced topics like how do I add folders and skills to an activity. So you can look through those topics as well as you sort of go through the process. And how do I archive an activity or contribute to a Seesaw activity library? The Seesaw activity library portion, coaches might be exploring this quite a bit so that you have access to very specific activities that they are advocating for. I did have questions about how do I use Google Apps or Google Drive with Seesaw. So I wanted to make sure I added that. And I also added how do I add something I made in another app into Seesaw. So please do click on these and look through those because those are really great questions that were already forwarded to me in advance. There are some ideas and ideas for the classroom, and again, go through the activity guide. I did add a quick recording spot. So this is an activity that you can do with your students. And this is a step by step. Here are some student pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2 challenges that I've included in here. And they are linked right in here, which they look like this. So if I go into the preschool challenges, this is what they look like. Lesson 1, lesson 2. These are the kindergarten ones, and you can see the signing in, signing out, the green button, taking a photo, adding voice with the microphone, adding a writing sample, the drawing tool, reflect on the math work, and the wow work. So here are some exemplars like open the Seesaw, take a photo, tap the mic and read, add to your journal, show what you know in math. So these are really great exemplars that you can use as student challenges at different levels. So we have one which is the kindergarten, preschool, grade 2 challenges, which are right here that you can take a look at. They are a little bit more sophisticated, so you can, of course, use those. They are about writer's workshop and some of the math work. And then you also have the grade 1 challenges. So you're most welcome to use any and all of those, and they are linked in here, and you can go through that. So all the training resources that I just showed you in this presentation are linked right in here. So these particular resources are all linked in here, and you can always go in here, tour of the class app, learn how to connect to families, introduction videos. All of those are included in here, and you can click on those and grab those resources, modify them, again, augment them as you see fit. There are also some Spanish resources that I've included that you could take a look at and send it to your students as you see fit. So that's your quick preview of your implementation guide, and you will have access to this guide right after this training. Lastly, that was your implementation guide. There was a really great question in the chat about what kinds of apps can you use within Seesaw. So you can use many different apps in Seesaw. Of course, I would highly recommend going through our student data privacy um, website and making sure that all of those the apps that we use are in the student data privacy database. So if it says procured or request in process for the apps, then all of those apps you can use those apps. However, if you have something like a company denies to sign an SDPA like this one for Adobe Spark, then we recommend not using those apps because we don't have a student data privacy for that, and then we cannot protect student data for those applications. Having said that, here is a quick link to excuse me, what apps are compatible with Seesaw. So please take a look at this and you will be able to sort of have a good idea about what is applicable or can be embedded within Seesaw. And many, many apps work within that. So again, these are the resources in Spanish that I recently referred to. And then here are again the joyful student exemplars. And I'm going to play one of those again, just so that you can, I particularly like this assessment example as well. So I'm going to click on that. Give me a second. It's right here. It's not letting me click on the exemplars. So I'm going to, second. Okay, I'm going to click on this one.
You can see the lines that I've drawn are not parallel. Let me show you a line parallel lines. T and S and Q and R are parallel, as they'll never meet.
This is a great use of the annotation tool within Seesaw, and you can see that there is a lot of learning that's happening within Seesaw just because of the tools that are available to the students. Here is the collaborative prediction.
I think that it's going to evaporate up here, and there's going to be like dots of bubbles of water, and on the bottom it's probably going to do the same thing, and then on the sides it might do that as well. I think it's gonna happen. It's like gonna it's gonna go and like it's gonna evaporate up and then get stuck on the top of it. And then some of it's gonna evaporate, but it might get cold so it might fall down and get onto the ground like this. And then like some of then like maybe like the heat might do something with it. Like
This is such joyful discussion from our students, and the enriched um, way of arguing their points of view and talking about predictions and hypotheses and all of that. So it's just rich learning experience where they're articulating their learning and making it visible. So please feel free to navigate through all of these resources. I have also included some of the pre kindergarten to second grade exemplars in here. They're student samples, which are just amazing. I personally love them, so I curated a few and I've added them. Of course, you don't have to use any of these, but feel free to use augment them as you see fit. They are part of the activity library, so I thought, and they were very well aligned with the standards, so I thought I would add them into the resource section as well. And these are some for this third to fifth grade, so if you feel like giving them a little bit of additional challenge, you could always look at some of these and take a look at them and add them to your classes depending on the topic. So that was pretty much it. Right now, I am very excited about the launch of Seesaw for us, and I know it's going to be, trust me, it's going to be an amazing platform and an amazing tool for us. I did see a lot of questions about, resources in general. Please trust me, I am going to send you this guide as soon as the training ends so that you have access to all of this wonderful resources, including the student challenges. And so please wait for around half an hour after the training, and you will get an email with this guide embedded in that email so that you can access it. Any other questions? I absolutely look forward to answering any of those. And if you have any problems accessing your email, you can always contact me or George, and we will make sure your accounts are working. Thank you.